What's up, everybody? It's Grim, and you're watching Thrash Maniac 99 Wrestling, Gaming, and Metal videos. Hit the real intro.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the Thrash Maniac 99 YouTube channel, and it's time for episode 11 of the Horsemen Podcast, and we've got quite an interesting episode for you guys. I know I say that for every episode, but what else do you say for an introduction? I don't know, I'm not an expert. But this week we're talking about our 10 favorite black metal albums. It's gonna get cold, it's gonna get evil, it's gonna get grim. And
satanic as well. Sorry.
Meanwhile, to go a run round of everyone, of course, yours truly, Levi, Thrash Maniac. If you don't know me by now, why are you here? Above me is everyone's favorite Portugal crazy man, Artur Felipe Castana.
I'm not crazy, but I still say, Baron, your shit!
To the left of him is our favorite German woman, Miss Hannah Klein.
Hello.
And also, perhaps the biggest black metal fan out of us in this group.
I think so.
And then, underneath her, you can't see him quite just yet, but Ricky, a.k.a. Horror Master. Oh.
A.k.a. the legger.
Yeah. I assume he's not there right now, so
he's lagging as always.
Yeah, even though he's in his car and somewhere where he thinks is good internet or good cell service, it still ain't computing with him. But at least we got one positive out of it: no crazy background noise. So.
Oh yeah.
So I got a feeling this episode.
No McDonald's.
Yeah, McDonald's are at school. So I feel like this episode's going to hopefully, I don't want to jinx it, hopefully run smoother than the previous few episodes. But we saw Ricky earlier wearing a Mayhem shirt. Oh, he's coming back. Is he...
Next time, if we can try and get him, we should get Aleister Black, because from what we understand, the wrestler Aleister Black, because from what we understand, he also knows is black metal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's a big black metal and hardcore fan, from what I know. So, yeah, and I was going to say with Ricky, a.k.a. the Lagger, so Ricky, Hannah, and Artur are wearing black metal shirts. I'm out of place! I got no black metal shirts right now. However, with Broken Hope, you could say the first two Broken Hope albums have a black metal grimness in the production, because of how raw it sounds, so...
Same thing for the one of the bands that unites us all, Behemoth.
Yep. So, let's get on with this. So, black metal. Everyone's one of their favorite subgenres of metal for its history, for its music. Meanwhile, for me, not one of my favorites, but I do have an appreciation for it, even though I'm not particularly an expert at black metal, similar with doom and power metal. After all, most people know me as more of a thrash, death, prog, and traditional heavy metal guy. But nonetheless, I do have quite a few favorite black metal albums that could be in like my top 30 favorite albums of all time. And before we get to our actual lists, we're going to do our honorable mentions. Now, first, I don't have any honorable mentions because this was kind of a tough list for me to put together. So I don't have any honorable mentions. We're going to save the best for last on this one, which is you, Hannah. And we're going to kick things off with Artur, with your honorable mentions.
For the first time, I have more than 3 honorable mentions. I have 5. My first one, it is a band that a good friend of mine who is a huge black metal fanatic knows. He recommended this band. From Sweden, this section, A Storm at a Light's Bane. I mean, I still hear that album all the time. It is a great masterpiece. My second honorable mention one can argue that this guy or this band was a part of the foundation stone of black metal, Merciful Fate's Melissa. I mean, it may not be black metal per se, but so weren't these guys at the time, and they're on my list. But still, they are the foundation stone, along with another band that I have on my list, as Chris Jericho would say. I have also Enslaved's Frost from their sort of black metal pagan era, and still to this day that gives me chills just listening to it. On my honorable mentions, and I could not put them here on my top 10 list, it's the first one that I'm going to show, if you can see it, Anthems at the Welkin at Dusk by Emperor. For those that know me, I'm a sucker for Emperor. One of my top 10 albums of all time, probably number 4 or number 5, is an Emperor album. For those of you that know, you know which one it is already. And for those that don't, you will see it because it's on my list. And last but not least, I know that these guys aren't fully black metal, but this may be the album that transitioned Samael from the cold black metal era to the rest of the what would become their era, whether it's industrial black metal or more of an experimental stuff. Ceremony of Opposites, Black Trib, Into the Baphomet's Throne. I mean, this is one of Samael's masterpieces, and to me, it deserves an honorable mention, mostly because the list is pretty much unchangeable. That's my honorable mentions.
All right, Ricky, are you there? I guess not.
No,
So, I guess while we wait for Ricky to get his shit together, oh my god, and I'd assume he got like, what, 20?
It isn't that bad. I reduced it quite a lot. Well, I have, of course, some honorable mentions. Much like Artur, I wanted to put Enslaved on my list, but the thing is, they've been so consistent all over the years. It's hard for me to pick a record. I mean, I was thinking about Eld, which I love, Axioma Ethica Odini, Isa, Rune, and Ritir, which is my personal favorite, but none of them quite made it. I mean, the whole discography of this band is great, but there isn't a standout record in my opinion. Then I've got the whole Dark Throne trilogy on my honorable mentions list.
The
thing is,
I got one of those 3 on my list.
The thing is, I highly respect Dark Throne, but they're not among my personal favorites. And
that's okay. That's okay.
And that's what. And since it's a personal top 10, they're not on the list, but on the honorable mentions list. Then I've got also a Dissection record on my honorable mentions list, but it's the Somberlane, which I prefer over Storm Over the Lightsbane, but that's just a personal preference. Also, I've got Dimmu Borgir's Puritanical Euphoric Misanthropia on my honorable mentions list.
Controversial choice. That's a controversial choice.
The thing with Dimmu Borgir is, I mean, they get a lot of hate, and some of their stuff is quite annoying, but I really dig this record. Yep. But I really dig this record. I mean, it's got the perfect balance of old school, symphonic, and of course Isius Vortex vocals. And in my opinion, it's their best. I prefer this over all of the records by a mile. Then I've got Master's Hammer's Ritual on my list.
Ooh. Oh, I forgot to put that one.
I mean, I really dig this early example of Eastern European black metal, and it's very ritualistic and got this very eerie atmosphere, and I love to spin it once in a while, but it didn't make it. And Then I've also got Celtic Frost to Megatherion on my honorable mentions list.
Oh, not again. Not my list.
I'll explain
Jesus
after
Christ!
you're done. I'll explain why I didn't put Celtic Frost on my list.
I don't consider them too important for the later development of black metal. That's why they're not on the list. And then I've also got a German example on the list. It's Nagelfart's Virus West, which in my opinion is the greatest album of this kind of first wave of German black metal. And then last but not least, I've got Batushka's Liturgia on this list, which in my opinion is I love this record, and it's in my opinion, one of the best examples of this kind of third wave Polish black metal things. But I'm not going to talk about all of my honorable mentions so much.
Also a bit of controversial choice.
Yeah, I know, but it's about my personal preference, and I just love this record.
I know, but
yeah.
If we would have somewhat of the true watching here with us, they would say that. But Tushka is.
But I don't care about elitism.
No. Me neither.
No,
I
think as long as I like it, it's fine. And for me, what I want to clarify with my list, there's not a lot of first wave black metal on here, but a mixture of second and third wave, which I like more than first wave.
Yep.
Meanwhile, my list mostly has first and second wave, but I was going to say the only reason I didn't have Celtic Frost on my list is because, while yes, influential on the development of black metal, I wouldn't really consider them straight up black metal. I'd say more thrash, death, black, avant-garde, hybrid kind of thing.
That's the reason why I don't have Celtic Frost, Venom, King Diamond on this list.
Same here.
There's only one first wave band that I consider important, and
we'll know when we get to that, but if I would have put Celtic Frost on my list, they would have gone number one for Morbid Tales if I was going to put them on my list, but I didn't.
That's not a bad choice either. Or you could try to go even more old school with Hellhammer.
Yeah, Hellhammer's Apocalyptic Raids, that could have made my list. But then again, I'd consider that more death thrash with blackened production. But nonetheless, Ricky, since you're back for now, hopefully, what are your honorable mentions?
I got 5 honorable mentions.
And he's going again. It's a tradition. Alright, there he is. Continue.
Celtic Frost.
Still lagging.
Yeah.
The Black Trilogy.
no.
We lost you.
You lost me?
Now you're back for now.
Actron Trilogy. And Burzum Philosophum.
There's a Burzum album on my list, and I'll spoil right now. It's not Philosophum.
I got a Burzum album on my list, and it's not Philosophum either.
I think that to me, it's not that Philosophum is not great. It is, but kind of overloved,
overrated.
To me.
Yeah.
Kind of overrated, and it seems that if you talk to, sorry for what I'm about to mention, if you're from Seattle, some of the more Seattle black metal hipsters, they would just listen to Philosophum and nothing else.
Yeah, that's true. Alright, well now, time for the actual list. I shall kick this one off. Just now talking about Burzum. My number 10 is Burzum's self-titled debut on my list. I went old school with Burzum on this one. Now, granted, Burzum not my favorite, not just because of Varg, but I just like other bands more. But recently I listened to the first Burzum album, and I have to say, for Varg not being able to learn drums, or learning drums in only just a couple of days before recording, I was impressive that he was able to play drums like that on that album and do the guitars, the bass, the vocals. even a guest appearance from Euronymous of Mayhem on War. It was a good album, and plus the song War has a very recognizable riff at the beginning that I really, really like, that I wish I could learn on guitar.
Necromancy from Bathory. Everyone knows that.
Yeah, that's a riff I wish I can learn on guitar, but
then again, if you want to rip off, you rip off from the best.
True. That is true. Then again, Bathory did rip off For Whom the Bell Tolls for the end of Home of Once Brave on Hammerheart. So,
and speaking of the thrash mania, did Slayer rip off Black Sabbath for the South of Heaven song?
I would say Judas Priest, but the Ripper. But
if you listen Into the Void and South of Heaven, it's the same riff.
Yeah, that's a good point. But yeah, if you want to rip off from the best, not from the ones that came later. But
I'm going Toro Yano.
But yeah, number 10, Burzum's self-titled debut. Artur.
I've kind of always enjoyed not just the old school black metal, I'm sorry, but also some of the more symphonic aspects of it. And my number 10 somewhat may be my more controversial choice, because I already heard this band, but once they did the symphonic black metal episode, I just remembered about it. It's Opera 9 from Italy, and their album The Black Opera. Like I said, I did enjoy the more black metal side, the more symphonic side of black metal. It tends to be grandiose. Beautiful, that's Cradle Fields and Dimmu Borgir's job, but for something to be grandiose as that, and the Black Opera deserves a listen. They're a band from Italy. The album is from the year 2000, which you could say it's third wave black metal, but still, it is a very beautiful masterpiece. And I forgot to put an honorable mention, and this band deserves it. And I hope that when Banger does the Greek black metal episode, they mention the three women from Astarte, who did several black metal albums, and unfortunately, their lead singer Maria eventually passed away from cancer. But this is a band who was mostly it was all female, and still they made some great black metal stuff. They even worked with Spiros from Septic Flesh, with Shagrat from Dimmu Borgir. So Opera 9 is the album Black Opera is my number 10 album, and 6 honorable mention, Astarte from Greece.
Ricky.
My number 10 is the debut of Bathory. Bathory's debut album.
Whoa!
Nice.
And he's lagging.
And just as he said his pick, he's frozen again. Oh boy. Anyways, I guess not a bad choice. Not a bad choice. Really, any of the 80s era Bathory albums is a good choice.
Like, this album, Bathory's debut album, to me is the perfect mix of punk, rock and roll, heaviness. Basically, it's almost the same thing. Heavy.
Poor Ricky. Poor Ricky.
He doesn't get a break.
Well, we got your pick in Bathory self-titled debut. All right, Hannah.
I've got 2 third wave albums on this list that are, in my opinion, very important for the development of later subgenres of black metal. The first one is Shining's Halmstad.
Oh, I remember watching that cover album and having nightmares of it.
And the music is very nightmarish. I mean, Shining aren't called the godfathers of depressive, suicidal black metal without a reason. And this album, I mean, forefathers of this kind of genres and the inventors, but in my opinion, their musical style peaked on this record. In my opinion, it's their best, and I get chills every time this little girl's voice sets in and calls something on Norwegian, and it's like she's close to dying, and it's so depressive. And then you have this kind of classical musical piece in between, and his vocals on this record are on top. And I think after that, they still have released some good records, but nothing has ever come close to Halmstad. Yeah. My opinion, crucial record for depressive suicidal metal, depressive suicidal black metal. Yeah, and deserves to be on this list. Yep.
That's easy to say 5 times in a row fast.
and then the second record, in my opinion, is crucial for the development of the American scene. I mean, of course, there have been bands like Apsu and Agalog releasing great records, but kind of at the 2010s and later on, there have been a number of great bands coming out of America, and in my opinion, the greatest is Panopticon with Kentucky.
I had a suspicion.
Yeah, the thing is, I mean, this great mixture of Americana with black metal is, in my opinion, very innovative, and a lot of bands have copied it afterwards, but none have come close to Panopticon, and this, in my opinion, is the best record. Masterpiece, groundbreaking for the American black metal scene. Perfect.
Alright, and now number 9. Hannah, I'll let you start this one off.
Again, a groundbreaking band for the weird side of black metal. Deathspell Omega's Monumentum requires circumspice. I have no idea how to pronounce that shit. It's weird. It's so misanthropic, and it's so hard to listen to them. But this is, in my opinion, their most accessible record so far, and great for bands that would later follow, like Shamash and Terre Tenebrosa, all these experimental bands like Blood aus Nord, and a masterpiece for out of France. Yeah, they're from France. Nobody knows who they are, and it's great. And it's weird.
Now, there's a band that I never liked. I never liked Deathspell Omega. I'm sorry.
I'm not a big fan of the later records, but this one I love. I don't like Paraklatos or all those later records, but this one, in my opinion, is great.
Alright, Ricky.
Lagging.
Well, we had him for a second, and now he's frozen again.
Gotta be a bit You guys hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
No. It's
not
Cruelty and...
I get it. He's about to say Cruelty and the Beast, Cradle Filth. Once I heard him say Cruelty, I knew what he was going for. Okay, so we got Ricky's number 9.
Yeah, but we could still debate a bit. I mean, while he's still trying to lag. But go ahead, Ricky.
Cruelty and the Beast. This is one of those albums that, first of all, I'm gonna go Cradle Filth lately. And, I don't know. The only reason I like this album is, everything's perfect with this album, but Cradle Filth is one of those bands that they were, in a way, it's like Danny Phil said it. The second wave, but not really. I mean, sure, they have some of the black metal aspects, but they're more into the gothic side. Cradle Filth was one of those bands that you can arguably say they were black metal. I mean, look at the debut album.
Yeah.
But
And still to this day, Cradle of Filth is.
Yeah.
And still to this day, Cradle of Filth.
And Ricky's frozen again. Anyways, my number 9.
Still to this day, Cradle of Filth is very much debatable in the black metal spectrum. I mean,
you either love it or hate it.
Yeah.
And that's how I understand Cradle of Filth. For example, I love Demo, I hate Cradle.
I'm not a big Cradle fan either. If anything, I prefer
more. I tend to prefer more Demo than Cradle, I do enjoy both bands. I don't hate one or the other.
I don't hate either band, but
especially since they were, to a certain extent, my introduction to black metal. It was when I saw for the first time, and I'm ashamed to say it to a certain extent, but it was when I saw Progenies of the Great Apocalypse, when MTV was still putting out some good shit, and also when at one time at an alternative TV channel that I had here, they passed on From Cradle to Enslave by Cradle of Filth, the video clip. That's how I got my first black metal experience. But then I got all back catalog.
Yeah, and when it comes to Cradle, for me, I like their early stuff. Like, I love that song Forest Whispers My Name. That's probably my favorite Cradle song.
Vampire. It's from the Vampire album.
Yeah. Anyways, my number 9 is, now this is a little bit debated. Some people would say this is black metal. Some would say it's doom or post-metal or folk. Agalloch's The Mantle. I mean, and I was not really into Agalloch until about a year or so ago when I heard stuff off this album. I was impressed, especially with, like, what the hell was that one song in the middle? I can't remember the whole track list off the top of my head. Well, actually, I could look on my phone.
In the shadow of our pale companion.
That song, yeah, some songs, song titles escape me. Yeah, In the Shadow of Our Pale Companion's a favorite. I Am the Wooden Doors, I love that song.
Desolation song.
You Were But a Ghost in My Arms. Yeah, that whole album's a masterpiece.
Oh, no. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that album's a masterpiece for, like, the more folky, doomy type of black metal. And
the thing is, I consider it more to be a hybrid of sort of folk, doom, and black, and that's why it didn't make it for Wireless. Because I think Agalloch, like many bands, you just can't define what they're doing.
Yeah, it's hard because they do so many different things.
But I love this record so much.
Alright, Artur, you're number 9.
My number 9 may not come as a shock to anyone, especially over my love that I have for this band. But I'll just say it. It's not this album that I'm going to show. It's not Heretics from Rotting Christ that I have right here. But it's a Rotting Christ album. To me, it's 2010's, however you want to pronounce it, a.k.a. with the Spartan helmet. I mean, to a certain extent, they were my first. a.k.a. was my first introduction to Rotting Christ, and this had just a little bit of everything. It had grandiose from the symphonic style. It had the raw of black metal, and even live, these guys are just a fucking juggernaut.
Yeah.
I mean, some of their songs like Daemon Vrossi's Noctisera, Fire, Death, and Fear, or even the Orders from the Dead, which is a cover from Diamanda Galas, who to a lot of black metal enthusiasts may be an inspiration. But these guys are, like I said, they're a beast. They're a beast live. And
I agree.
One thing that I loved about these guys when I saw them for the first time, almost 10 years ago, their intro was that whole what can I put, 300 Return as a King, where they start that big choir, and then it starts with the drums and such. I mean, it was perfect. So 2010's Aiello by Rotting Christ, my number 9.
Alright, and now moving on to our number 8, and I shall, if Ricky's there, I'll let him start. And he's not there. I guess Artur, we'll start with you then.
My number 8, you could say that they're a thrash metal band, you could say they're a black metal band. Panzer fucking Division by Marduk. Panzer Division Marduk. You could say that they're to me they will always be black metal since the dark endless periods, even later on with Grandad's Macabre. Others would say they're war metal or whatever, but to me they will always be a black metal band. And Panzer Division Marduk with such anthems, so to say, like Panzer Division, Baptism by Fire, Christ, ... black metal. I mean, these guys are one of the best things that ever come out of Sweden. And Panzer Division Marduk, to me, it's one of their best albums. I could have put Dark Endless, I could have put Le Grand Dance Macabre, I could have put so many others before, but Panzer Division all the way.
And if I recall, I think on Dark Endless, I think it was Andreas Axelsson from Edge of Sanity on vocals on that.
And on
Dark
Panzer
Endless.
Division is Legion. And on Panzer Division is Legion.
Alright, my number 8. Artur, you brought this band up in your honorable mentions. Samael. However, it is not Ceremony of Opposites I picked. In fact, personally, I gave that album a listen. I didn't like it as much as I love this album by Samael, Worship Him, their first album.
Oh, their first.
The
original Pentagram.
Yeah, Into the Pentagram, Knowledge of the Ancient Kingdom, Morbid Metal, and I spoke about this before. I believe I mentioned this album on my underrated albums list when we did that episode. It was like, this was black metal, but with a lot of doom in it, too. Like, you listen to songs like Into the Pentagram, Knowledge of the Ancient Kingdom, there's a lot of doom on there, which I really, really liked. But then you get songs like Morbid Metal, which is straight up black metal, especially with the blast beats. Yeah, Samael, Worship Him, Swiss black metal from 1991. And even Fenris of Darkthrone said it as well. He's surprised that not a lot of black metal bands in that era went the route Samael did, because you notice a lot went either the Darkthrone route, the Mayhem route, the Burzum route, but not the Samael route, which was more on that doom spectrum. But
and industrial, and later industrial.
Later industrial, yeah. So number 8, Samael's Worship Him. Hannah.
I debated quite a while on which album I would choose from this band. I knew that Immortal had to be on my list, but I wasn't sure if I would put Pure Holocaust or At the Heart of Winter on this list. But in the end, I just picked my favorite, and it's At the Heart of Winter, which I slightly favor over Pure Holocaust because of its better production, and I just love how catchy some of these songs can be, especially the title track, or Withstand the Fall of Time and Solar Fall and all these great songs. Basically every song on this record is great, and that's why it won over Pure Holocaust.
They're on my list, but I'm going to do something that I'm going to do for my number 7, but we'll wait.
And I apologize for me getting up at the moment, and someone was knocking outside of my door, and I went to see what it was. But so I assume you had At the Heart of Winter by Immortal, Hannah, because I heard those songs. That's a good album. All right, Ricky, are you there? Well, I heard his car go off. Bong, bong, bong. And he's gone.
No, no, the car is there. Oh, God.
Well, whenever Ricky can get his stuff together, we'll get back to him. So now we move on to number 7. And my number 7 is a band that you could say this was their only, quote, black metal album before they changed to...
Sarcophago!
Damn it, you got it. You got it. I was just about to say...
Midnight Queen.
No.
Oh, shoot.
Nope, it's INRI, their only real black metal album, whereas afterwards they became more death metal. But INRI, 1987, from the Brazilian thrash scene that spawned many different bands such as Sarcophago, Sepultura's early days stuff, Mutilator, Volcano. I could have put Volcano, Bloody Vengeance on my list because that's kind of black death thrash hybrid. This is kind of the same thing, but more on the blackened side with death metal blast beats. But INRI, I mean, you hear songs on here such as Satana's Nightmare, even though I prefer the rotting version of the song even more. Into the Last Slaughter, Christ's Death, Death Thrash. Very short, sweet to the point, this album was with the production. Also, without this album, would the Norwegian bands have adopted the corpse paint look because of the album cover where all the members had on the corpse paint and standing in front of a Jesus statue, which gave a powerful image for the album. Whether it was the Western-looking version or the colored version. Very powerful stuff, and Sarcophago, this is the one album most fans would know this band for, even though I always like to push for them to check out Rotting or Laws of Scourge, which, by the way, that album, Laws of Scourge, may or may not make my death metal list for next episode. We'll have to wait and see, but INRI, Sarcophago, number 7. Hannah.
Yes, I have 2 records on my number 7. The first one, we already talked about Burzum, and Ricky already mentioned Philosophem. I choose Philosophem over that some Engavar and his Lysse Tar Os, because it's kind of this predecessor to this later lo-fi atmospheric ambient approach that would blossom within the genre, and I just love this minimalistic approach Varg choose on this record, and I think I consider it to be more important to the development of the genre than his previous records, and that's mainly why I choose it. And I think Dunkelheit's just my favorite Burzum song. And then the second one is rather similar. It's Beherit's Drawing Down the Moon.
I forgot Beherit.
Also very atmospheric, very experimental, very weird, from Finland. Came out 3 years earlier than Philosophem, and in my opinion is also a crucial record to the development of this kind of experimental, atmospheric, ambient black metal style that would explode later. Just very weird. Love to spin it.
And hell, some would even argue it was a pivotal album in the war metal style too, because of its chaotic nature.
Yeah, I think both records kind of fit well together, and that's why they're both on my number 7.
Alright, Ricky, are you back? I guess not, he's still frozen. I think, Ricky, you're literally cursed. You are literally cursed, Ricky. I don't think it seems like it don't matter where you go, your connection's still shit, or your cell service is shit or something. I don't know. Maybe not his cell service. Maybe he'll just try and use his cell data, and maybe it'll be better for him. I don't know. That's a good backup for me, especially if I'm having to use my phone. But I guess while Ricky recuperates as he's relaxing on our screens, we'll move on to everyone's favorite. Well, Ricky, are you back?
Yeah, I'm back.
Real quick, your number 7 and number 8 before you lag again.
8. Celtic Frost, Morbid Tales, my number 8. And number 7, Emperor, The Night Light Eclipsed.
Oh, you son of a... You son of a gun!
Why?
Ah!
You son of a gun!
It happened again. It just happened again. Okay, and meanwhile,
The look on his face.
the look on his face, it looks like his nose grew 2 sizes. The way I'm not gonna lie, that frozen shot makes his nose look big.
Well, maybe he is the black wizards that emperors talk about.
Maybe. Maybe.
He's the cursed legger.
Oh, well, at least he got his picks in that time.
Or you should use that as
Perfect pose.
profile picture.
If you want to talk about it, talk. I'll not talk about it. I'll not talk about it.
Oh,
No, nope.
Okay, I was gonna say before I turned attention to Ricky, let's get to our favorite number in the numerical list, number 6.
I haven't mentioned my number 7. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. Yeah, you're number 7. Sorry.
My number 7, and this is, as I said, I'm going to employ this tactic for a while, especially for 2 of my picks. My number 6, it's Dark Throne, as you can see a bit right here, but it's not Arctic Thunder, so don't worry about it. But I was thinking, could I put either one of the trilogy just by itself, even though my favorite is A Blaze in the Northern Sky? But I just simply can't. I just simply can't put Dark Throne any and all. So it's a tactic that I'm going to employ, especially for another one on my list. So I'm going to put the Dark Throne trilogy: Blaze in the Northern Sky, Transylvanian Hunger, and Funeral Moon as my number 7.
And Ricky's still happy.
Yeah, he's still happy with a big nose. Oh, and now it's gone.
Aww.
Damn it. And just as I'm about to speak, Banger TV just posted a video about new merch. I'll check that out after this. Alright, so...
I don't want new merch, I want new Lockhorns.
Yeah.
I do too. I do too, but people gotta go into the Patreon. They're only a little over 2,000 away from their goal to do the 8-hour episode. Which, that'll be a lot of fun whenever that happens. But anyways... Oh,
and I prefer do another global metal stuff, but leave the same old countries alone. Come to Portugal, even do a Texas episode, do a Germany episode. Just leave all the same. Just
I want them to
the same places.
I want them to
Texas
go to Poland.
thrash.
Or Texas death metal, Nile.
Alright, anyways, to number 6, the number of the beast. I shall kick this one off, and this is one of the 5 albums from this list I own. Hannah, you brought up Immortal. However, my pick is not At the Heart of Winter. It is Sons of Northern Darkness. I mean, one
What
by
a
one.
coincidence. I have it right here, but it's not on my list too.
Yeah, I got the Digipack version at FYE one day, but yeah, Sons of Northern Darkness, I mean, in my opinion, Immortal's best work, when it was kind of like having some of the death metal blast beats with thrash riffs with the black metal aesthetic. My favorite song by them is One by One. That's an amazing tune. Tyrants is great. Although I prefer the Vakken version than this version. I love the Vakken version of Tyrants. Especially the little dances Abath does.
The crap walk.
Yeah. And I can play part of one of the riffs of that song on bass. and I enjoy playing that. But yeah, the title track is also really, really cool too. So yeah, it was like the first half of this album was more straightforward, and then you get the second half, which you could argue was a little bit proggy because the songs started to get a little longer by the second half, but fucking love Sons of Northern Darkness. And if I would have put a different Immortal album on my list, I could have went with Diabolical Full Moon Mysticism, or hell, even Northern Chaos Gods. I really like that album.
The first three.
Mm-hmm. But I went with Sons of Northern Darkness, fucking masterpiece of the 2000s. Artur, number 6.
My number 6, and this I had to make a quick change on my list because I had one extra album, but these two are so important to me that I decided to put them together on my number 6. The first one of my number 6, which is something that Hannah has done several times over, so stealing a page out of her book, but my first of my number 6, Venom's Black Metal. Lay down your souls to the gods, rock and roll. Exactly. I mean, it's easy for a lot of YouTubers like ourselves or even others say that Venom did not create black metal, but they did. To a certain extent, they did. They were although Black Sabbath was delving into mysticism themes and satanic imagery, I mean, Cronus, Abaddon, and Manthus, they went knee deep into the shit. Literally, they went knee deep into everything, and you see, arguably, Quorthon copied this from Venom, and I'm sorry, but Bathory copied a lot of stuff from Venom, even though Quorthon will never admit it, not even now. But still, one of my number 6 is Venom's Black Metal, and the other, since we were talking about Burzum, which is kind of a strange thing to put, but I'm not put Dead Song Engvar, and I'm not, as sure as hell not going to put Philosophum. I'm going to put his second album, Aska. That, to me, it's what represents what later what many would consider atmospheric black metal. I mean, you got Urukai, the song, you have Lost Wisdom, you have some great tunes there, and Varg. It doesn't really sing in many cases. It just screams.
Painful screams.
Ringwraith. What were the Nazgul then? What were the Nazgul in Lord of the Rings with their shrieks?
Yeah.
Bards.
So, my number 6,
or as he prefers to be called, Louis.
Yeah. So my number 6 is Venom's Black Metal and Burzum's Aska.
Yeah, I bring that Louis up because I've been watching Goniloc's bastardized history videos of metal genres, and when he did black metal, oh god, it was so hilarious. All right, Hannah, you're number 6.
My number 6 is a German band, which I consider to be the greatest German black metal band, and it's The Ruins of Beverest, Rain Upon the Impure. The thing is, it's the kind of successor band of Nagelfar, which I already mentioned in my honorable mentions list, but The Ruins of Beverest took things a step further. It's very densely written, very kind of misanthropic environment they create with this music. It's very hard to listening to it, and the thing is, I wouldn't listen to it on CD or digital platforms because you just don't get the atmosphere with this record that you get on it with vinyl. And the first song, it's just so hard to listen to that, but then somewhere after that, these weird chantings and choirs and all that shit kick in. It's just everything compressed in a record that you want from a black. It's weird to explain it, but it's a very great record, and I could have picked almost every record from their discography, but this, in my opinion, is the best. If you want to listen to third wave German black metal, The Ruins of Beverest is your band to go, and they are amazing live. traveled to Scotland to see them, was blown away. I mean, one of my favorite live bands from this black metal environment after Rotting Christ. I had it on my turntable yesterday. So amazing.
Ricky?
My number 6 is The Mantle. a.k.a.
Oh, again!
Again! Yay!
Which one? I did not hear.
Agalog, Cemental.
Agalog.
Agalog.
Album, to me, I mean, every time I listen to the album, I just think of peace and prosperity. Even though, like, you might say it's atmospheric black metal, but like Hannah said, that's more of a folky side. It does what it does. I mean, it's a perfect album. In my opinion, there's nothing that Agalog, especially in the Shadow of Our Pale Companion, is one of those songs that will never, ever, ever get old. If you ever listen to it 50,000 times, I can listen to it like 1 billion times, I still get chills.
Alright, and now...
Number 6, The Mantle.
Now to our top 5. And Ricky, while you're still not lagging, what's your number 5?
My number 5, De Mysterious Dom Satanas.
Again!
Yeah. I could have easily put that one
this?
my number 1. But,
You mean this?
you know, something...
Damn it! And now we can't hear him. I think him saying that just broke everyone.
He again broke us all.
Oh, good lord. He's talking, but we can't hear him. I think he hit his mute button. Poor Ricky.
He just can't seem to catch a break.
No, he can't.
No.
It's like he's gonna have to come and live with me now so he can have perfect internet now.
You should adopt him.
Oh God. He's my son. He's my adopted son, even though he's probably older than me. That would be so weird. Oh God, but so we got his number 5.
I adopted you to give you the internet.
Pretty much. So you don't constantly lag out all the damn time. Okay, so we got his pick, which was De Mysterious Dom Satanas from Mayhem. My number 5, on the other hand, now, this album's always been debated in my head as far as what it actually is. Is it black metal? Is it melodic death metal? Or is it a combination of both? Which I go with the latter. It's a combo of mellow death and black metal, and that is Dissection Storm of the Light's Bane. Fucking love this album. John Nudvide, vocals and guitar. It's like, if you ask me as far as what I would think with this album, black metal production and vocals with a melodic death metal musical approach, with acoustic stuff in between. And I got the 2-disc version that has the alternative mix as well as a few covers, like they covered Tormentor's Elizabeth Bathory and Slayer's Antichrist, which that's one of the best Slayer covers of all time. But yeah, and also my favorite musician of all time, Dan Swano, producing this album, and even contributed screams on, I want to say it was on Where Dead Angels Lie, he provided some screams on, but also, for those who don't know, he provided the high note in the Black Horizons opening track on Somber Lane, which was quite haunting, but Dissection Storm of the Light's Bane, a blackened mellow death, melodic black death, mellow blackened death, whatever you want to call it. Fucking masterpiece. Hannah.
I have two albums on my number 5. The first one is by this little band.
Windeer.
Yep.
Windeer.
1184 by Windir, which is without question my favorite Windir record, and they've done so much for the development of this kind of folkish black metal. 1184, from the first notes in Todeswalzer to the last notes in Journey to the End, just perfect. Every song is amazing on this record, and it's just a shame that Valfar died so young.
And the way he died too.
Yeah, I mean, who just goes into the woods and freezes to death? I mean, isn't
While
there
trying
a more...
to visit his family, yeah.
Yeah, probably the most black metal death in the entire scene. I mean,
one would say that that's dubious honor belongs to dead.
Yeah, I think both are very high up on that list.
I don't know. If we're going to go technical with it, I would say Dead's death was more death metal. That's just me. I don't know.
So was Kurt Cobain.
I don't know.
And with 1184, my favorite Windir song is on that record, and it's Journey to the End, and they played that as a closing track on their Wacken tribute show in 2014, I think. And it was just so amazing to have Valfar's brother on stage singing that song, and so many guests from Campfire, Wright, and all that stuff. It was a great show, and I love 1184 to death. And the second record on my number 5 is Ulver's Nattens Madrigal, or whatever.
Nattens Madrigal.
Yeah. My opinion, the best black metal record Ulver ever released, and the last one before they would drift into the avant-garde and synth-pop and experimental. Great folky black metal record, and a legend.
Artur.
My number 5. You already talked about so some of it. Some of you chose Morbid Tales. I choose to make Megatherion by Celtic Frost.
My favorite.
I mean, first off, it has possibly one of the best covers of all time, made by
the
genius.
late great H.R. Geiger. Yep.
Exactly the same. Sorry about this. This is always falling. I don't know why. The same one who made the supposedly indestructible Xenomorph, the alien. But, I mean, Celtic Frost, as I think it was Martin Ericano who said that he wanted to create something different. Hellhammer was good, but still a bit on the shitty side. Even Tom also admitted to it.
Yeah.
But with Celtic Frost, they were able to broaden their horizons. And despite all of this debate between what is true, what is not, what is important is always broaden the horizons. And Celtic Frost was the first one to do so by going not only from straight black metal, but starting to incorporate symphonic elements to it. More, as you said, that avant-garde, which is later something that he did with Vicentura and the guys from Triticon. But nevertheless, my number 5, To Megatherion by Celtic Frost.
And one could argue that was the last black metal album Celtic Frost did, because then after that they started getting more classic metal, avant-garde with Into the Pandemonium, and then that abominable glam album that we will not talk about.
But then they got back with a hell of a black metal comeback called Monotheist. That was their last.
Yeah, even though I would also kind of consider that like gothic, doom, avant-garde, but I also love Vanity Nemesis, because that was more thrashy groove and stuff. But yeah, I love To Megatherion as well. But like I said, if I would have put Celtic Frost on my list, Morbid Tales would have been my number 1. But
nothing against. Nothing against.
And now to our number 4. Artur, we'll start with your number 4.
It is a bit of sort of the same tactic that I'm going to use for that I used for Dark Throne, but it is impossible to me it is impossible to me to speak about Abath, Daemonaz, and it's not Sons of Northern Darkness that I'm going to put in here. I'm putting the full trilogy of Immortal albums. Diabolical Full Moon Mysticism, Pure Holocaust, and Battles in the North.
Of the North, yeah.
Although Battles in the North out of those three is my favorite, especially for the Blashy Mighty Raven Dark, especially for the Blashy Mighty Raven Dark song and many others. And many others like Grim and Frostbitten Kingdoms. The whole story of the Kingdom of Blashy, but I just can't put just one Immortal album. I have to put all three. Full Moon, Diabolical, and Battles in the North. My number 4, the Immortal Trilogy.
Alright, Henna, you're number 4.
I have two records on my number 4 again, which both belong to the third wave of black metal. The first one is Lawless Darkness from Wetane, which is, in my opinion, the best and without doubt the masterpiece of Wetane, and a great example of what black metal is today. It's still true, but also kind of innovative to a certain extent, and it's just, every song on this record is great, from Malfata to Waters of Iron. Every song is great. The lyrics, true cult, and one of the best live bands I've ever seen. And then the second record is one band I've talked about extensively. It's Migwa's Exercises in Futility. Just misanthropic Polish black metal masterpiece, talking about nihilism and everything being futile, and it's just so good, so melodic yet so misanthropic and against humanity. Everything black metal is about nowadays, not so much about just being Satanists and burning churches. It's something a bit more intellectual, and that's what I like about them. The lyrics are just very clever, the music is awesome, the drumming, especially the cymbal work of what was his name again? I keep forgetting. The drummer is amazing. Yeah. And that's why both of these records are on my number 4.
Alright, my number 4. It's already been brought up, but, and I see Hannah's got the poster of it right behind her, and that is Emperor in the Night Side Eclipse.
Almighty Lord of the Night!
It's just quick thoughts. The pioneering symphonic black album, fucking epic, orchestral, evil, all hail Eshan. That's all I got to say. And also this version I have here is the deluxe version with
as well, because not gonna say anything.
But this version I have right here has the bonus tracks, the covers of Bathory, A Fine Day to Die, and Merciful Fate's Gypsy.
I love that A Fine Day to Die cover.
But yeah, my number 4, Emperor in the Night Side Eclipse. Ricky, are you there, or are you dead?
He's dead. He is dead on his mouth.
He's just being cremated by Paul Bearer.
Oh boy.
Oh.
Well, I guess while we wait for Ricky to appear back into our faces.
Yeah.
Oh, there he was, I think.
He's alive.
Barely. Ricky, if you're there, what's your number 4?
You don't hear us, bloody thing.
Do you hear us, Ricky?
Calling all Texans.
Houston, we have a problem.
In this case, Laredo, we have a problem.
Oh, good lord. Alright, well, I guess while we wait for Ricky to get his stuff back together. Moving on to the top three. And I shall kick this one off. Ricky already brought this up at his number 5. Mayhem de Mysterious Dom Satanas.
Whoa. Number 3. That's your number 3. You son of a gun. It's my number 3 too.
Well, we'll both talk about it. So, yeah, this album, as many people have said, probably the most tragic backstory of any album in the history of metal. Because it was released in '94, but it was recorded all the way back over a year. And, of course, a lot of crazy stuff had already happened.
In fact, they had already sang some of the songs like Pagan Fears, even Freezing Moon in their Live in Leipzig, which is still considered one of the best black metal albums of all time. Still with that, but then we all know what happened. If you want to continue.
Yeah. Of course, around the time of this recording was when the band had gone through a couple different members before picking up Varg on bass and Attila from Tormentor on vocals. Now, this may come controversial for black metal fans, but honestly, I prefer Attila's vocals over anybody in Mayhem because of the experimental nature of his voice and how... And I watched some of Beelzebub's documentaries, and on the both black and death metal documentaries, he interviewed Attila, and pretty much described it as if he was the living dead singing. That's the perfect way to describe Attila's voice on this album. Dark, evil opera, especially on the title track at the end, where he gets into like the kind of approach.
And he puts in an amazing effort in arguably their most well-known single, "Freezing Moon."
Oh yeah,
which
absolutely.
You can hear Death's version, you can hear Attila's version, or even later on Maniac's version. But I'm still on the mindset that Dead was one of the best vocalists of the black metal scene, and I don't know if it would be different, but any vocalist that would come after Dead, especially recording this epic masterpiece, The Mysterious, would have very big shoes to fill. So, in any way, since it was recorded with Attila, it already had a precise voice tone. If it was with Dead and then with Attila, or even Maniac, it would be difficult. So, in a way, our number 3 for Levi and myself, The Mysterious Don Satanas.
And if I were to mention one more thing, I think the MVP of this album, aside from Attila, Hellhammer on the fucking drums.
No question.
Holy shit. It's not hard to see why he's arguably one of the greatest extreme metal drummers of all time because of his speed and precision.
No question. And he's still widely requested to play in other bands. He played in Arcturus. He made arguably to me the best of the later on Dimmu Borgir albums in Sorti Diaboli. He played in many other bands. So Alhammer is an MVP. And just as a tribute to Necro Butcher, fuck you! You know what I mean?
Oh, good old drunk Necro Butcher at Wacken, 2004.
It's Wacken, and he is drunk. What else is new?
Yeah. No wonder why he kind of acted like a dick to Sam Dunn.
I'm sure can attest to the same thing.
Thank God that he and Sam Dunn made up and had a good interview, so there you go. Ricky, while you're still alive, what's your number 3 and number 4?
Number 4, Merciful Fate.
Damn it!
Which album?
It's lagging. He was going to say Merciful Fate's what? But then...
Ricky?
You get number 3?
No, we heard you say
Number
Merciful
4.
Fate and then it stopped.
Number 4, Merciful Fate, Melissa.
Melissa.
My number 3, Venom, black metal.
All right, there we go. If I would have, and also similar with Celtic Frost, if I would have put Merciful Fate on my list, I would have actually went with Don't Break the Oath over Melissa.
Oh yeah, that would be
Don't Break the Oath. All right, Hannah, your number 3.
Since you were already talking about Mayhem,
No way. Oh.
I was thinking about putting De Mysterious Dom Satanas on my number 3, but in the end decided against it in favor of Live in Leipzig, mainly because it is on vocals. And it's just such an iconic live concert with this, "Come on Leipzig, join us!" and
Pure fucking Armageddon.
And the amazing "When It's Cold." And when
Love
it's
that
dark.
too.
Yeah.
I do that sometimes when, in my spare time. In fact, I might be able to do it right now since my dad's outside. Let's see if
Isn't he going to exercise you?
Yeah.
All right, let me see if I can do that. I gotta warm up. Now I'm not. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do it because you guys are making me laugh. Damn it. Okay. When it's cold and when it's dark, the freezing moon can obsess you. I fucking love that. Now, if there was one, did they do the song Carnage on that album? I'm thinking they did Carnage on Live in Leipzig.
Death Crush, Necrolust, Funeral Fox, Freezing Moon, Carnage?
If only Carnage would have been on De Mysterious, that would have been awesome. Because I listened to the version with Dead, the studio version. That's one of my favorite Mayhem songs is Carnage. But imagine if that would have been on this. It could have been an epic, but we'll never know. And I would say, if you ask me, Carnage would be, in my opinion, our most death metal-oriented track because of the sheer brutality of it. So, that would be my opinion, I guess. Alright, top 2 time. And my phone's going off, thank you very much. Ironically, my best friend on Twitter, Melissa, is liking a bunch of tweets and sending me messages. So, while we let Ricky start his number 2, I need to respond to this. Shut up, phone.
While he's alive.
Yeah.
My number 2, Bathory, Under
The sign of the Black Mark.
The sign of the Black Mark, yeah.
But his face is priceless.
Under the sign of the Black Mark.
That's my favorite Bathory album of all time. Next to the debut album, only because of the, in my mind, Bathory's best song of all time, Enter the Eternal
Fire.
And Woman of Dark Desires, Elizabeth Bathory.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I feel like my head's gonna explode. You wanna know why, Ricky? Ricky, you wanna know why? That's my number 1!
What?
That's my number 1! Son of a bitch. Ah.
Hey,
Why'd
you
you
already
do this?
spoiled my number 1, so we're even.
Well, that's true. Alright, well, Artur, what's your number 2?
It's also Bathory, but
Same here!
But, unlike popular demand, it's not the self-title, it's not Under the Sign of the Black Mark, The Return of Darkness and Fire, their second album. I mean,
that's another
I
good
could have
one.
easily put under the sign, I could have easily put Under the Sign of the Black Mark, which is easy to love. It's Bathory, but I mean, and the Return of Darkness, the Return of Darkness and Fire. I mean, it's just as beautiful. It's basically an evolution. I mean, you have the child, in this case Bathory. You have the young people, the youngster, the Return of Darkness and Evil. It's not Darkness and Fire, Darkness and Evil. And then the Full Man. I just love more the Return because it's still, even though it's on a studio, it still has that raw edge, that raw power, that raw fire of early second wave black metal, with great songs like Total Destruction, Born for Burning, Wind of Mayhem, and I mean even the self-titled album, the self-titled song, The Return of Darkness and Evil. So to me, The Return of Darkness and Evil, although I could have easily put Blood, Fire, Death.
Which that's the one Bathory album I own, at least right now. I could have put that on my list too.
I could have easily
and that's
put
a great album.
Blood, Fire, Death as well, because it transitions from full-on black metal to the epicness of Viking metal that I also love. I mean, my favorite
with a lot of thrash on there too. A lot of thrash influence on that too.
But still, The Return of Darkness and Evil, my number 2.
Alright, my number 2, a band that's been mentioned quite a lot already, Darkthrone. Now, there's a lot of Darkthrone you can go for, but I'm going with the one Darkthrone album I love the most, A Blaze in the Northern Sky. Fucking raw, rocking, evil, and even like Fenris said, and this version I got, it's got 2 discs. It's got the DVD. Well, it's not a DVD. It's an enhanced CD with a video documentary interview with both Fenris and Nocturno Culto. I like how they said that this took them 2 months to record because they were making the transition out of being death metal to black metal, but still a lot of death metal on this album with the riffs played in the black metal style, which I really, really like. Catharian Life Code, In the Shadow of the Horns, the title track, The Pagan Winter.
And this was still when they were a 3-piece. And this was that was still when they were a 3-piece.
Well, actually, yeah, they were mainly 3-piece, but the bass player from Soulside Journey, Dag Nielsen, did do the bass on this album, and then was gone altogether.
Had Zephyrus.
Yeah, Zephyrus, Nocturno Culto, and Fenris. And I love the backstory about how this ended up getting released. In that same interview, Fenris was talking about how when they had to send the final mix to Peaceville, Peaceville was like, "What the fuck is this? This is black metal." "Well, we signed you as a death metal band. What are you doing?" "Well, we don't want to play death metal anymore." "Well, we have to remix this album." "Why?" "It sounds too weak." That's what black metal's supposed to sound like. And I like how he goes, "Well, if you don't like it, we could just take it to Euronymous' label, Deathlike Sounds Productions." And then Peaceville just relented, was like, "Well, it won't look good for us if you guys leave, so we'll release it."
Great Sodom song.
Yeah. And Peaceville just finally relented, was like, "Alright, we'll release it how you want." And it's funny how they thought it was going to do so bad, maybe they would go back to being a death metal band. But no, it's an all-time classic, and then Peaceville was like, "You know what?" But yeah, I like how Peaceville also was like, afterwards was saying, "Well, since over time we got into it and it's been successful, how about you guys make another one?" And that's when the trilogy continued, which was cool. And they're back on Peaceville ever since... When did they get back on Peaceville? Late 2000s?
I don't know.
But they have left. I mean, Arctic Thunder, to me, their latest album is the only one that I could say is the closest that they ever got in recent years for as far as black metal, because
before that, I think what album was that?
After I think the trilogy, they made another one which was also a great black metal album.
Panzerfaust.
I think it was Panzerfaust, I think, but
Yeah.
afterwards, it never was the same.
It wasn't quite the same, and then with, I believe it was Cult is Alive, when they started to incorporate that crust punk element. My favorite album post-90s would be Underground Resistance, because it was just so old-school heavy metal sounding. And I loved how they were just having fun, having a good time, writing kick-ass, old-school, New Album-inspired, speed metal-inspired tunes. And for me, Arctic Thunder... And for me, my personal opinion with Arctic Thunder, it was good, but I didn't like it as much as I liked Underground Resistance. I kind of was hoping they would have expanded upon what they did with Underground Resistance and go even further into the old school, like 70s even. I wish they would have gone that route, but maybe they might do that on Old Star, or is it going to continue the direction of Arctic Thunder? We'll have to wait and see in almost 2 months. But yeah, my number 2, Blazing the Northern Sky. Hannah, your number 2.
My number 2 is also by Bathory. Classic decision. But I didn't choose Bathory, I didn't choose The Return, neither Under the Sign of the Black Mark. I choose Blood, Fire, Death. I choose the album where Bathory kind of is transitioning from just being black metal to being a Viking warrior. That they later showcased on Hammerheart. But I choose Blood, Fire, Death because I just love the mix between black metal and these early elements of Viking metal. And without question, my favorite song, A Fine Day to Die, is on there from Bathory. Just a classic from start to finish. Loved it when Emperor played A Fine Day to Die at Wacken when they had this anniversary of...
They did that as well, I think.
Yep. Yeah, but I personally, I just saw Emperor doing that, and it was, I mean, gave me chills, goosebumps, everything, and yeah. And for me, it's just a very classic record, perfect for my taste, and it did so much for the later development of the scene that I just have to acknowledge the impact this record had on the scene.
Yeah, and like I said earlier with... man, after doing my Dead impression, my voice is kind of hit the fucking
You did.
wall. I was gonna say, I mentioned earlier with Blood, Fire, Death, I love how thrashy a lot of songs were, like Pace Till Death, Dies Array. That's probably my favorite song off that album because of the thrashiness
even the self-title, Blood, Fire, Death.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was probably my favorite of the Viking songs on that album, was the title track. Alrighty, Ricky, you're number 2.
I already said my number 2.
We're up to number 1 now.
Oh, meh. Yeah. Alright, now we're to number uno, numero... My god, I am terrible today. Numero uno! I'll let Ricky start this one off.
He starts and he stops.
He was so committed.
I was about to say the way his face was frozen like this, it looked like he was. It looked like he was about to bust a nut. I'm terrible. I'm terrible. I know.
But... Not again.
Viking motherfucker. Come back. I always come back with a hit. This ain't no different. My number 1.
We're never gonna know now. We're never gonna know what his number 1 is. Just as he's about to say it, it stops him dead in his tracks.
So, drum roll, please. Any lags again.
What's your number 1, Ricky?
Satanist! Behemoth!
What?
Huh?
Behemoth? Satanist?
Yeah.
Seriously?
I think Ricky has officially broken.
Yep.
What?
Okay.
Okay, and nothing. I don't know.
Still lagging,
to me,
but
started around 2013. Black metal. 2014, the Satanists came out. I heard this. My mind. I know I'm doing it before Bastard. I know I'm doing it before Make. I know. Yes, I know I'm doing it for King Diamond. I know I'm doing it for all those bands. But to me, the Satanist is, in my mind, the perfect black metal album of time.
that is a very controversial decision.
Song.
Yes, it is. Probably the most controversial statement on the show.
Yeah,
Especially-
putting a death metal.
Black and Death. I would put it
Black and Death.
I would have put
Death.
it on a death metal album list. For me, at least.
Yeah, for me it's more death than black.
Yeah.
To me, it's more Black and Death. It's a bit like what's that other band that I've tried to listen to, also Polish? Balfagor.
Yep.
Ricky was like, "Oh, I'm number one."
No, but I mean, yeah, it is a great album. It's probably one of the best ever. But
Yeah, of the
full-on
decade.
black metal, not to
Not
me.
sure. No. Like we said, I think it's more death than black, but
Or Black and Death.
yeah. Alright, well, my number one was Spoiled. Bathory Under the Sign of the Black Mark. I mean, quick thoughts. I mean, when you have 3 all-time black metal classics, Call from the Grave, Woman of Dark Desires, and Enter the Eternal Fire, you're really coming out of the gate strong when you have those 3 tracks. But underrated songs like Massacre, which was like so fucking fast with the blasting going on. Chariots of Fire, was it 13 Candles? I believe on that album, or something along those lines. 13 something. But fucking classic.
13
1987.
leggers.
Yeah, for Ricky's case.
13
Or-
leggers in Texas.
But yeah, my number one, Bathory Under the Sign of the Black Mark. Artur.
Since Ricky also was kind enough to spoil my number one, I said this when we did our first episode of our top 10 albums of all time. Probably my introduction to, my introduction with black metal was that. But even though I like and I love very much Mayhem, Venom, and all that stuff, to me, nothing in every single area of this world will ever beat In the Night Side Eclipse by Emperor. And I've heard so many times that is now the hipsterish stuff to do because it has the symphonic stuff and all that stuff and all that. It has the symphonic stuff. It's what people that don't know black metal listen to it first. Either this or The Mysterious or any Burzum album as such. But I don't care. I mean, first off, it's also an amazing cover, and there's one which is, and there's a rare cover which is not blue, it's green. And second of all, we're talking about a band that also it didn't produce that many albums at all. I mean, if we talk
Only
about
4.
5. I mean, Nightside, Anthems, Equilibrium, Prometheus, and thank you. And I also count Towards the Pantheon, not Towards the Pantheon, their EP, Wrath of the Tyrant.
Oh.
I also count with Wrath of the Tyrant. But and also this one has a tragic story behind it because they had to replace the drummer afterwards for Faust. Exactly, after the Lillehammer stabbing. But then again, we're talking also about songs that are still very much present to this day. Anna already sang one of them, Inoa Satana, Black Wizard, Into the Infinity of Thoughts, Cosmic Keys to My Creations, Towards the Pantheon. I mean, this album is a full-on masterpiece.
Yep.
and I will still say to this day, Karak Algren, Dimmu Borgir, and Cradle of Filth should pay these guys fucking royalties, because without them, and possibly Celtic Frost,
And Opera 9.
Sorry?
I said, and also Opera 9.
Yeah. To Opera 9, and I would say they should pay Opera 9, Celtic Frost, and Emperor fucking royalties for beginning the
symphonic black metal movement.
Symphonic black metal scene. So, my number 1, and still number 4 or number 5 of my best albums of all time, In the Night Side, Eclipse by him.
And finally, Hannah.
Well, Artur already said a lot of things about this record.
I knew it was coming. I knew it. I just had a hunch.
The thing with this record is just, while, I mean, Varg and his pals were burning churches and killing each other, and not so much focusing on the music, but rather on actions, these guys...
Supposedly Samoth did some church burnings too.
Yeah, but let's talk about Ishan, the pure mastermind behind this. He, the Emperor, were up to greatness. This is probably the biggest masterpiece of the entire black metal genre. It's a masterpiece from the first note to the last note. It's just divine. While others were aiming for lo-fi productions, they were producing art. And I mean, if let's say a Mayhem or Burzum are just like a shitty painting in a gallery, this is like the Mona Lisa in the gallery. This is the most valuable portrait or a painting in the gallery. It's just the best. And
although next to it, I would definitely put Anthems to the Welkin at Dusk.
Yep, that's the one I would put right next to it. Both are great. Just, in my opinion, In the Night Side Eclipse is the legendary one, and Anthems to the Welkin at Dusk is the nearly legendary one. Both are great, but from the Emperor discography, In the Night Side Eclipse just stands out. I mean, every track, everything is great about it. And if you know or claim to know black metal, you have to know this one. It's just the most important record of this genre.
And as I said, despite what hipster guys will tell you about,
well, who cares about hipsters?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the problem. You hear now that the hipsters will listen to Emperor because it's the hipster thing to do.
Yeah, sure, but hipsters come and go. I mean, that's the way it is.
It's also going to be about the same thing as my death metal album so far, because it's the hipsterish thing to do. But nevertheless, I mean, for Anne and myself, I mean, In the Night Side Eclipse is a pure.
Yeah.
It's jade. It's pure jade.
And everything about this thing is cold and art. And it was so fucking hard to get this thing on vinyl. They're very rare.
I got the Digipack edition here, but and even
meanwhile, I got the jewel case like deluxe. And also a great record label put it out, Candlelight Records.
Yep.
That was pretty cool. That a year later released Opeth's debut, which was awesome.
If Banger does a Lockhorns on Candlelight Records, these two have to be there. Absolutely. You cannot put Nightside Eclipse without Anthems and vice versa.
Yeah, I would say the top two Candlelight albums would be this and one of the first two Opeth albums, for sure. Well, that was our list.
But it was actually quite peaceful.
Yeah, and even though Ricky had his issues, as always, the rest of us, Hannah didn't drop out at all, which was a miracle in itself. Hopefully, this can keep going, because special announcement for our next episode, which is our top 10 favorite death metal albums as we go to the other side of the two most extreme subgenres in the history of metal. We just tackled black metal, then we just tackled evil extreme, now we're going to be tackling brutal extreme the next time with death metal. But the special announcement, we may have a special guest from Banger TV joining us, Bradley Zorgdragger, also from Exclaim Magazine. And how? I'm basically best pals with the guy on Facebook, and we talk a lot, and I brought up the idea to him, and although we gotta try and figure out how we're gonna do it, considering he can only do it during evenings or in the weekends, so we'll have to try and figure out a weekend day around this time and hope we can get Brad on here. Depending on the quality, we'll either do it on camera, or if things go off the rails too much. Luckily, we got my server with a voice recording room that I have that I can bring everybody into. But nonetheless, top 10 death metal albums, that's one of 2 episodes. The other one being, if we do a thrash episode, that's going to be so fucking difficult. Because those are my 2 pride and joys. Yeah, it's going to be bloody, it's going to be brutal, it's going to be grim when we get to death metal. But, spoiler alert, this band is on the list.
What a surprise.
Well, hey, say the same for you with Emperor.
But also with me and Levi, there's another band on the list. It starts with an A.
Yes. I wonder what that could be. Asphyx! Anyways. Gotcha, bitch. So, yeah, episode 12 will be death metal albums with possible special guest Bradley Zordragger from...
And I will be clueless!
Just like I was today.
Yeah, but you still did pretty well.
Yeah, so maybe Hannah will do the same for next time.
I don't think so.
And also it's going to be and also someday we're going to do a very special episode for Hannah. Top 10 Ed Guy and Avantage albums.
And for Ricky, he wants me to do a whole video talking for an hour about Diabolical Music by Slayer. That ain't happening. That will never happen.
No, but I still want to see you do the reaction to Deutschland's video.
Oh yeah.
Maybe. If I don't get copyright struck.
And we need to do a top 10 Rammstein songs episode.
I gotta listen to more Rammstein before I could even come close to doing it.
And I will just rant about German poetry for like hours on end.
Well, as Ricky just already hit the shitter, thank you all so much for watching. I know people are probably going to be talking a little bit about this in the live chat of the premiere, since this is premiering live right now. When you're watching, for us, it's not. We're recording it, obviously. And also, real quick, thank you, Kamikaze, for a couple of Twitter cameos in the video. Maybe we'll get him as a guest for the Death Metal episode, maybe, if his Midco internet is gonna hold up, and maybe Mr. Fireblade will come back for that. So, God, that episode could be the best episode ever, because of 7 possible guests, or not 7 guests, 7 people. And then if only I could speak, that would be dangerous.
And everything would crash.
Imagine redoing this black metal stuff with professional wrestler Aleister Black. That would be.
Oh God, yeah. That would have been awesome. Or if Kamikaze was here, because he loves black metal, he would have... I already know what his number 1 would have been. It would have been De Mysterious Dom Satanas, because he posted in my server, that's one of his top 25 favorite albums of all time, so... And he's more of an industrial metal freak, but you get the idea. But anyways, thank you all so much for watching. I would say this was probably one of our smoother episodes we've done, especially after the train wreck that was last time. But thank you all so much for watching. Can't wait to do the Death Metal episode and get to pick Bradley's brain if he gets to join us. I know Hannah's going to be up in the head.
I will be tortured.
But that would be a better...
Tortured existence. Demolition Hammer reference. But anyways, even though they're not death metal, they're more thrash, but you get the idea. Anyways, thank you for watching.
Go ahead.
Oh, you finish.
But that would be a better place to discuss certain topics like the Satanist instead of a black metal episode.
Shots fired.
Ricky,
Oh,
you just got served.
I think I know what I'm going to put on my list.
Well, there you go. Behemoth Satan is going to be on the list for her. It might make mine. I don't know. We'll see. Anyways, yeah, well, I still got to rework it. Like, I got the list done, but I might do a lot of changes to it because my mind changes all the time with death metal. Anyways, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.
Fucking Ricky and Behemoth at number 1.